Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and I don't normally do this kind of content, but I feel passionately enough about it that I feel like I need to weigh in on the situation. So there's been a recent update in regards to the current state of Halo Infinite and their plans going forward. They're not great. It's no secret that the launch of Halo Infinite has been problematic at best. It's encountered some significant issues from way back in its early development all the way up until post-release. Of course, it was delayed in the first instance way back sort of when we were hit with the pandemic, and as a consequence of that and a few other situations, they pushed Halo Infinite's launch date back. Wasn't great news, but overall it was received quite well, and we kind of moved on. When Halo Infinite launched, enthusiasm was high, engagement was high. I had some of my best months as far as views and engagement is concerned as a content creator, and just across the gaming community, across the Xbox platform, even on the Steam platform, Halo Infinite was holding a really high position. All in all, the campaign it was good at launch. Not great, but it didn't quite strike the same cadence as previous titles. I know it was vetted as being something of a soft reboot, but it felt more akin to kind of a Halo CE with this generation graphics. Mainly because, I mean, we're on a ring, we're fighting against an alien, a conglomerate of aliens who are vying for the extinction of humanity. We're fighting for every inch of ground. You know, an unexpected enemy is introduced. It's kind of sounding a lot like Halo CE, great. And that was more than likely done intentionally, but I still feel like they could have gone a different way considering the setting, where we are, so to speak, in Halo Infinite. All in all, the game seems to ride on this rising conflict, this inevitable conflict between Chief and Escharum. I feel like that could have been done over maybe a couple of like smaller engagements to start with, and then building up to a big fight at the end, rather than just dealing with the quote-unquote bosses, the mini bosses through the game, and then we fight Escharum and then it's over. And by it's over, it's like the campaign just ends abruptly, and there's not really a huge amount of explanation as to what happened exactly, and it just feels a bit half-baked. There are islands on the map that we just don't visit, for example. So I think it's pretty obvious to most that large sections of content for the campaign were cut. It's a given. Begs the question then, why is it going to take so long to release the next campaign installment? Because sure, if you cut a load of stuff, you've got assets right there and available to actually implement and edge along the process of releasing another campaign. I mean, for Christ's sake, ODST went from kind of conception to launch in a little over a year. So, you know, we're closing on a year since the launch of Halo Infinite now, and we don't even have a trailer for the next campaign. But that's down the line. That's not really the main subject of today's kind of video. We end up on Zeta Halo in the campaign. I don't want to go on about campaign for too long, but we're on Zeta Halo. Zeta Halo is one of the most history and lore steeped Halos in the lore. Like the history that it has with humanity and ancient humanity, the flood, all of the events that transpired. There's so much potential for Zeta Halo, and yet we get what we got, which was just basically a very small area of the ring, proportionally speaking, where UNSC forces fight basically the Covenant races. Just they've been given a paint job and called the Banished, and really that's it. There's little hints to like new pieces of emergent lore, the Endless and this and the other, but it's never extrapolated. We never learn actually that much about it. So there's huge amounts of potential, and yet it's just not realised. And as a consequence of that had a knock-on effect for me, at least from a content creation perspective. I'm a lore Halo YouTuber. I rely upon lore and new stories to do my content, and there really wasn't anything that I hadn't already covered. Covering the history of Zeta Halo, I've got a few videos on that, and that's been done hundreds of times by dozens of other content creators. I was hoping that we would get new lore and new extrapolations and new perspectives on older histories and things like that we could really get into and sink our teeth into, especially getting Joe Staten come back, considering all the little Easter eggs and the mysteries that he sewed into Halo 3 ODST. And yet there really wasn't anything. So that made content creation, at least for me, for my lore-based content, just for an infinite focus, just straight after the launch. Which isn't great, not great. But like I say, the real story of today's video is the multiplayer, because Halo Infinite is riding really on its multiplayer right now. I mean, the campaign, it's okay, it's good, not great. It could have been a lot more. There could have been co-op since launch. There could have been couch co-op since launch. But there wasn't. So really it's riding on the multiplayer. And from multiplayer's perspective, I mean, Forge is a massive part of Halo multiplayer. Completely absent for nearly a year. There was no co-op at launch. You couldn't even go back and play missions in the campaign. If you wanted to go back and play a particular part of the campaign, you had to start a whole new campaign and play all the way through to that point. So if I wanted to do something in if I wanted to revisit the Silent Auditorium, I can't. I've got to start a new campaign and go all the way through to the Silent Auditorium. So they're fixing it, but why wasn't that there to start with? On top of that, when it first launched, the multiplayer was limited. It's still extremely limited. Certain game modes that you'd expect to be there at launch were just not there. A variety of maps, more than the few that we got at launch would have been nice, but we only got the few at launch. A lot of the multiplayer service early on was spotty, like being booted out of games or not finding a game for minutes, sometimes hours in the extreme. Not finding multiplayer or playing the same game variant or map over and over again. These were very common issues in the early days of the multiplayer. And on top of that, a lot of the player customization was locked behind paywalls. I mean, we had the big problem with the armor coatings and how that stole away the primary and secondary color player customization. That's still an ongoing gripe within the community, to a slightly lesser extent, because the coating system it's okay. It's got relatively good utility and there's relatively good diversity in it. It'd still be nice to be able to tweak that though, from a player customization point of view. But they say it's quote unquote baked in. Again, this is a novice position as far as games development is concerned, but surely you could tweak something with that. I mean, looking at, for example, I know it's a very peculiar example, but Anthem, for example, had a similar kind of setup for armor colors, materials, textures, and this, that, and the other, like Halo Infinite has, and yet you could customize all of that, and yet you can't with Infinite. I don't know. It's a small gripe, but it's still a gripe. On top of that, Season 1 launched, obviously Season 1, Season 2, and onwards. When we say season, it's because it matches up with a seasonal period. 3 months. Year is 12 months. There's 4 seasons in a year. 3 months a season. Season 1 ended up being 6 months. Season 2 will end up being 10 months. Now, again, the recent update said they're addressing it. They're moving towards seasonality. But that means that when season 3 does launch, it's still going to be moving towards seasonality. There's a good chance Season 3 is going to be another 6-month season, and they might, or maybe 9 months, and they might tweak that down, get it so Season 4's, Season 3's 9, Season 4's 6, maybe get Season 5 to 4. I don't know. It begs the question: if you had as much time as you had to develop Halo Infinite, why didn't you have seasons ready to go at launch, just backlogged, so that you could just cover your ass for the first year. If you had 4 seasons just backed up, and I know it's easy to say and maybe harder to do, but if you just had 4 seasons backed up and ready to go at launch, you're covered for a year. And during that year, you can deal with the bugs, you can deal with unexpected situations, you can get new seasons on the way, and this, that, and the other. But you would have bought yourself that year. I mean, again, we're talking retrospectively here, so what's done is done. It's too late. You can't fix it. Let's move forward. But even so, it's a gripe, it's a bugbear. Why? From a project management standpoint, that things like that should have just been a given, but they weren't. Onwards from that, we've got news for upcoming features and things like that. Generally speaking, being leaked by data mining or from the community, digging into code and this, that, and the other. Forge was, some of the functionality that we saw in Forge was leaked before they actually even properly announced Forge from an official standpoint, and debuted it with a trailer or a showcase to show how powerful the tools are. That leaked from the community first. Now, don't get me wrong, that's great. It shows that the community is passionate and this, that, and the other. And 343 have kind of taken it in their stride. It's great. They've not shut it down. They've not, they've not made a big deal about it. But this information should be coming from them. It should be coming from them. I think another big bugbear that people seem to have, and I agree, I've got the same bugbear, is that delays, changes in the plan, new features coming online are not being articulated clearly to the community, and that is causing frustration. Humans in general, but particularly the Halo community, do not deal well with ambiguity. We just do not deal well with ambiguity. If you say to us, "Oh, this is coming, it's on the roadmap, it's planned," and then something changes, and you can't quite meet that deadline, or you can't quite, do what you intended to do, but you remain silent about it, when that time comes and goes, we as the community are then sat there going, well, what the hell is going on then? Where is it? What's the deal? You said you were going to do this, you didn't do this, what's going on? You can't remain quiet. If something changes, plans change, things change, we know that. Everyone knows that. Mistakes happen. Everyone knows that. But you can't just go quiet and give us the silent treatment. Changes to the structure, changes to the plan, we need to be told as early as practically possible. I mean, again, we were told on this recent update, couch co-op, something that's been a statute of Halo since Halo's been called Halo. Halo CE had split screen. Halo 2 had split screen. Halo 3 had split screen. You announced in the update, split screen isn't happening. That's it, it's done. Because you're prioritizing other stuff. Okay, fine. And it's a niche, I get it. It's like couch co-op is a niche, but it's also at the core of what Halo is. Halo was born through couch co-op. I don't know the exact statistics, but I can bet, and I'd love to hear it in the comments, I can bet a huge quantity, a huge proportion of the fan base got into Halo through couch co-op, through going around to friends, sitting down, seeing them playing the game, jumping in. I can guarantee that's what happened. Couch co-op is been scrapped for prioritizing other situations, other parts of the plan, parts of the game. We get it. Just explain it to us. If news is translated accurately to the community, and I think this is where the big crux of this issue is. If news is translated to the community in a more regular fashion, on a more regular basis, most people would be okay with that. Even if the plans change, even if you have to give us bad news, generally speaking, most of the community will be okay with that. As long as it's, as you explain why things are the way they are, what the plan is to rectify it. We understand. Plans change. We understand mistakes happen. And we're happy that you've articulated it to us and that efforts are being made to change it. Game development is ridiculously multifaceted. It's complex, and there's something going on. I'm not going to go into the rumours about what's going on, about the structure of the company, or about this, that, and the other, about ex-employees saying this, that, and the other. I'm not going to touch any of it because it's all just rumour mill stuff. But there's evidently something going on, either high up in 343 or at the corporate level within Microsoft, that's causing this knock-on effect. Again, game development is multifaceted, so it could also be the temporary nature of staff, meaning that some work is left half done, then new people have to come in and finish work that they actually didn't start, and kind of picking up where the previous person left off. These are a lot of different moving parts that will add to the delays and the complexity of developing this platform, especially considering that 343 Halo has never been a live service game before, and now they are, and they're scrambling to try to get it done. Again, there's evidently some project management failures there. There's evidently something that's gone wrong in the system somewhere at some level that's caused this to happen. But it boils down to communication. You told us when the pandemic hit that you were delaying because of the situation and because you know the amount of time that you could dedicate to the development of the game. It just wasn't ready. We're delaying, and we got it. We understood. So tell us. You have to articulate clearly what's going on, what your plan is, what's going to change, what you're doing to fix it. Just communicate with us more openly and more regularly, and I feel like that will solve a large degree of the frustrations and problems within the community at the moment, because the community are suffering, desperately suffering. Halo Infinite, Halo in general, interest in Halo in general is at an all-time low. As a content creator, I'm seeing some of the lowest numbers I've ever seen in regards to content that I'm putting out. Not just me, but many of the other content creators. Some content creators have moved away from Halo entirely. Of course, I'm a Halo dedicated content creator on this channel. I've got a few others, but it's a worry. It's a big worry. And even on a community level, interest in Halo is the lowest I've seen it. There was more interest in Halo in the massive content drought between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite launching. There was more interest then, and that was like a 5 or 6 year period of nothing. We have to get regular talks. It doesn't matter how it's done. You could do it in podcast form, in video form, like you did most recently. Stream like a company gaming session where you get a couple of people who are important to whatever it is that you need to discuss at that point, sitting down, play the game and talk about the situation. Just level with us, and we need more updates, more frequently, more transparency about what's going on with Infinite, because if you translate that to us clearly enough, we'll accept it. You're making changes, we can see you're making changes, we can see things are slowly improving, but the more we know about what's going on, the more the community will be behind you and will back you. And that has to happen. You have to keep it open with us, and you need to do that indefinitely, because it's happened before. We've been told you're going to be more transparent, you're going to be more open, you're going to be more forthcoming with information, and it happens for a while and then it tapers off again and we end up back here. It can't do that. It can't keep doing that. You have to be open with us. The more we know, within reason, without spoiling things, the more we know, the more content we are. The more we're behind you. That's the ultimate message here. Not just coming from me, but coming from my followers, from the community at large, from people I've spoken to about this situation, about what's going on with Halo. Communication is key. So make it happen. Because this is ridiculous. The game's a year old in a couple of months. We've had 2 seasons. No couch co-op. Co-op was flighted, but now it's kind of pushed back a bit. Forge absent. Multiplayer problems. It can't keep happening. Talk to us. Talk to us. The more you talk to us, the more we're behind you. That's the takeaway. That's my 5 cents. Like I said, not normally my content style. Comment down below. Take it easy, everyone, and find peace in the domain.
Thanks for watching, commenting, liking and subscribing. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members: Spartan10148, my Metarch; Dylan, Falcon X003, Kenwood, Irrefutable Justice, Leon, Neek and Ramiz, my monitors; Alvin, Andrew, Brand, Brian, Cameron, Chris, Darian, Devon, Flaming Halo, Greenblood, Kyle, Legions Lost, Michael, Prophet Bear, Spartan and Wolf, my sub-monitors; my fleet of Strato Sentinels; my diligent enforcers; and all the other awesome people that have jumped aboard to support the channel over at Patreon. Another shout out to Todd Morrison, my Transcendent YouTube member. And just one quick reminder to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord. Much love from 00. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.